Al-Qaeda. I am John Batchelor. This is the making of the John Batchelor Show. My colleague and friend of many years, Bill Roggio of the Foundation for the Defense of Democracy, a senior fellow, joins me. A very good day to you, Bill.
Good morning, John. A great day to you as well.
It is sunny and chilly. How is it with you, Bill?
Sunny and frozen, yes.
Yes. Bill and I were comparing wind chill stories of pulling people out of ditches. I had an experience on Saturday night of pulling a oil delivery truck that was riding to the rescue out of a black ice situation, Bill, where he couldn't get traction. What's your story, Bill?
Yeah, I get to pull people out of ditches. Our roadways when are at the mountain are when you get a lot of snow, people don't realize that the road is as narrow as it is, and so I get to pull people out with my truck. And I think I should throw that towing gear away and retire because it's cold out there.
No, all you do is build up credit in heaven when you do that, Bill. That's all.
Yeah, until I start charging, and then it's
Yeah, okay. In any event, we come back down to earth. It remains chilly but sunny. And Bill and I are going to turn to a topic that's always been in the news, but it doesn't receive the attention it did 10 years and certainly not 20 years ago, which is Al-Qaeda. We call them generally the jihadists because that's a bigger umbrella to bring in dissenters such as ISIS and the spin-offs in Africa. But Al-Qaeda is the mothership. This is the original vision of the year 2020 and the Ummah falling under a one governance, and their ambition remains intact for one global governance. And Bill, the story in 24, the story in 25, and I'm presuming the story in 26 is that Al-Qaeda is not only a threat, but it's a bigger threat than it was 20 years ago 25 years ago when we started watching. Do you agree with that, Bill?
I do, John. When you look at Al Qaeda 25 years ago, right? The September 10th, 2001, the day before 9/11. It operated in cells in dozens of countries. It had a safe haven in Afghanistan where it was fighting alongside the Taliban. But it was truly a terrorist or cellular terrorist organization with some insurgency capacity in its support for the Taliban, a little bit in Somalia and smattering in other places. Then you fast forward 25 years. Afghanistan is again under Taliban control. Al Qaeda operates freely there. The United Nations reports on the Al Qaeda's strength or its infrastructure in Afghanistan are stunning. It's far greater than it was pre 9/11. You look at Syria, where Al Qaeda's so-called former leader is now the president of the country and shaking hands with President Trump and supported by the West. He conducts massacres. He overruns a U.S. ally, and he's still praised. That is an Al Qaeda haven. His government is riddled with Al Qaeda leaders, as is his military. You look at Somalia, just go across the globe, and Al Qaeda it's metastasized from cellular groups to running two governments, basically, or in one case, in conjunction with the Taliban, and controlling significant portions of countries in Africa and elsewhere. So it's a dangerous organization. It's adapted. Now, is it flying airplanes into
Hold on,
the
Bill. Let's get this recorded because what you're doing is a wonderful summary. We're going to be joined by our colleague Hussein Haqqani at some point, and he can come in to give his perspective from this subcontinent and also from his travels for the Hudson Institute. But we'll begin right now with the general understanding that Al Qaeda has grown and changed over the years. And while all the eyes are on Venezuela or Iran or Ukraine, Al Qaeda's eyes are on us, United States of America, the number one opponent of Al Qaeda in the world for the last 3 decades. Here we go, Bill. 5, and thank you. 4. This is the making of the John Batchelor Show, and I remind myself every time it's not that I do it so well, it's that I do it at all, pressing these buttons. So, carrot soup, here we come. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm John Batchelor. I welcome my good colleague of many years, decades now, Bill Roggio, Senior Fellow for the Foundation for the Defense of Democracy, because we turn to the topic of Al Qaeda. It does not gain the headlines or the attention that it did 10 or certainly not 20 years ago, but it remains a challenge everywhere in the world. It's the mothership of the jihadists. And if we don't give it specific attention sometimes, we're busy following its many branches or its many tributaries, whatever metaphor you find appropriate. Bill, a very good day to you. Al Qaeda is stronger than it was, certainly on 2001, even with the withdrawal from Iraq in 2011, with the withdrawal from Afghanistan in 2021. It grows. It has a vision of a global architecture that would be all one governance. That was the original vision of Al Qaeda in the late 20th century. My information is that it is the same today, but you have fresh aspects with the reporting from Africa, with the reporting from the Arabian Gulf, with the reporting from the subcontinent. Is it stronger than it was, Bill, or has it broken into factions? Good day to you.
Hello, John, and good day. Yes, Al Qaeda's goal is, as it ever was to establish a global caliphate and impose its harsh version of Sharia or Islamic law. That hasn't changed. Al Qaeda has grown significantly since 9/11. It's not all of the D words that government officials over the past decade and a half have said: decimated, degraded, defeated, done. It's far from that. It controls, well, in conjunction with the Taliban, its close ally. Afghanistan is a Al Qaeda safe haven. It's a government. It's a country ruled by the Taliban. The Taliban, and the UN is very clear about this, gives them explicit permission to run training camps, establish religious schools, safe houses, including safe houses to get their leaders to pass to and from Iran. A weapons storage depot, which no doubt has American weapons that were abandoned, that were used by the Afghan military and abandoned. Syria is run by a top Al Qaeda leader, or supposedly former Al Qaeda leader. His government and military is riddled with Al Qaeda members that are designated by the U.S. government. Thousands of Al Qaeda fighters or Al Qaeda loyalists or allies are members of the Syrian security forces as well as the Syrian government. So you have two countries that are essentially Al Qaeda havens. Somalia is a mess. Half of it is probably under Al Qaeda control with Shabab,
Right.
and then on and on. Right, we can go on.
Oh,
That's Al Qaeda's caliphate building project. They do it emirate by emirate.
let's go on and on. We're joined by the former ambassador from Pakistan to the United States, now a senior fellow at the Hudson Institute, our good colleague Hussein Akhani. Hussein, we're taking this moment with eyes on Tehran, eyes on Kiev, eyes on Caracas, these world-scale geopolitical moves to review these decades later. Al Qaeda, has it grown? Has it changed? What is its ambition? Is it different than the global caliphate of 2020? We welcome your observations, Mr. Ambassador. Good day to you.
Al Good day. Al Qaeda is part of something bigger. It's the Islamist political ferment. That ferment is very much alive. Al Qaeda, as a terrorist organization, has morphed into new forms in different places. It controls territory. It has influence in Afghanistan physically. It has parts of Somalia under its influence, Mali. Several places, other places in Africa where there are little pockets of physical control, in some cases big pockets of physical control, ability to mobilize resources, and an ability to continue to recruit. Now, if you remember, 9/11 didn't come out of nowhere. There had been an attack in 1993, I believe, on the World Trade Center. And from that attack, Al Qaeda learned that what they had hoped to do, which was send a bomber inside the building and bring the building down, didn't work. So they spent several years planning something different. And they eventually got 9/11, in which they basically did uh, accomplish what they had hoped to do, to send a message, to scare, and to get the Americans to spend a lot of money and resources and manpower in fighting them. So they know how to wait. They think in generational terms. They think that it is their obligation to create an Islamic revival. They think they need to do it through violent means and through unconventional warfare, which all of us recognize as terrorism. They have partners and allies and sympathizers who don't necessarily agree with their tactics, but agree with their mission. The problem is that after 9/11, the United States went gun blazing. President George W. Bush announced that we will not tolerate terrorism anywhere in the world in any form. Went into Iraq, which was not at that moment Al Qaeda stronghold, but ended up resulting in chaos there. And now the American mood is we don't want to hear about it. We don't want to know about it. So people like Bill Roggio and I keep putting out stuff, telling people that this problem still exists. And I tell you, there's a very funny story that Bush Sr. Had asked. It's in the declassified, when he declassified paper, there was a briefing in which he asked somewhere in his presidency in, I think, 87, 88, 89, 90, where he asked, is Afghanistan still going on? Like, he had switched off on it because the Russians had withdrawn. So a similar switching off has occurred in America about Al Qaeda and about radical Islamist terrorism around the world. But those who observe it, those who know it, know that it's very much alive. It's waiting for its opportunity, and we don't know what their next move is going to be and how it will attack us.
And Bill, your thoughts about not just Al Qaeda, but its major branch, ISIS. Does it grow in proportion to Al Qaeda growing?
Yeah, so the Islamic State, of course, is an outcropping of Al Qaeda. Al Qaeda actually split off the Islamic State or ejected them after a big major dispute. It was probably coming one way or another. The Islamic State has evolved. It's hard to judge how it's grown, but it's certainly like Al Qaeda. It has tentacles across multiple continents: Africa, through Europe, through Asia, through Southeast Asia. Certainly has established itself. Doesn't have its physical caliphate like it had in Iraq and Syria up until about 2018, 19, when it was ejected from its final stronghold. But it's adapted to the situation. It's gone underground in many areas, but in some places, look, we've said this all along, Hussein and I and Tom Jocelyn and others, there's an ebb and flow to the jihad. Sometimes they're up, sometimes they're down, but they're never defeated in full. And in Iraq and Syria, the Islamic State's on its back foot at the moment, but they maintain a presence. They go underground. They come back out when we take our eye off the ball or when local governments take their eye off the ball. So the Islamic State is still an effective organization. I just don't view it as dangerous as Al Qaeda because it's unwilling to work with others. Like Hussein had mentioned, Al Qaeda is able to work with people who aren't necessarily their allies or fellow travelers. Al Qaeda will work with Iran. Al Qaeda will work with Turkey, even though these countries aren't always on board. The Islamic State will never do that. Their demand for ideological purity prevents them from doing that. And I think that Al Qaeda's, Hussein said it, right? Al Qaeda works in terms of generations. I always say we operate in terms of elections, 3, 2, and 4 year election cycles. They operate in terms of decades and generations. Al Qaeda has that longer term vision and the ability to, it's more pragmatic, its ability to to adapt more readily to the political situation. I think that makes Al Qaeda a far more dangerous organization.
Syria, which has gone through a civil war for these last decades, has now emerged with a self-named president, al-Shara, who is or was a al-Qaeda commander. When we come back, I will speak with Hussein and Bill about the significance of that, if any, of a member of al-Qaeda sworn to lead cutthroats, shaking hands with the President of the United States. I'm John Batchelor. I'm John Batchelor, speaking with my good colleagues of many years, Hussein Haqqani, former ambassador to the United States from Pakistan, now a senior fellow at the Hudson Institute. He travels widely. He's written widely about one particular topic, that is the jihad, launched many decades ago for its own reasons, but is still here in the presence of acronyms and one organization, Al-Qaeda. And Bill Roggio, the senior fellow for the Foundation for Defense of Democracy. And if you want to catch up on where we are right now, Long War Journal has multiple reports in all directions of Iran troubles, Gaza troubles, Lebanon troubles. We're talking about Al-Qaeda. And what is striking here, Mr. Ambassador, al-Shara, self-named president of Syria, is not only an Al-Qaeda veteran, he commands men in Damascus who present themselves as the Syrian National Army are all al-Qaeda veterans. Is that a success for al-Qaeda? Is this a model they're going to follow, to have one of our leaders named a president of a country?
I can't say if they are going to follow it, but I would be surprised if they do not follow it. Look, in a lighter version of it, we saw it in Afghanistan. The Taliban and Al Qaeda fought that war together. When the Americans went in, they fought together in 2001. They fought the Americans together throughout these years. They protected each other. If you remember, soon after the Taliban took over Afghanistan, Ayman al-Zawahiri, the successor to Osama bin Laden, was killed in Afghanistan. Osama bin Laden was found in Pakistan, right next door. Who both countries to the Taliban are one theater of war. But the United States negotiated with the Taliban, met them, cut a deal with them, signed an agreement, and an agreement that apparently has some secret annexures because of which the Taliban still get paid regularly by the US government, which supports them financially in return for whatever services they're supposed to provide in counterintelligence. So it's getting the fox to guard the chicken coop. And very frankly, that was the beginning of this new model. In case of Ahmad al-Shara, he has gone one step further. At least the Taliban didn't put on ties and modern suits. Shara has trimmed his beard, put on a tie, put on a suit, shown up at the White House. Expect more of that. The more naive America's leaders are, thinking that everybody thinks like Americans, all that matters to them is sort of dollars and cents, or things that Americans care about, rather than ideologies that are obscure and complicated from the American perspective, the more likely American leaders are to shake hands with more and more of such people. And the complexities after that is what we should be prepared for. Remember, all of these groups are pan-Islamists. They all believe that the borders between Islamic countries are artificial, that the entire ummah is one unit, and that that unity is the goal. And sometimes they disagree over who that unity should be accomplished under. Obviously, Shara would want to be the boss, somebody else would want, but they are always willing to work across borders. And that would mean that there will be some consequences of Shara's success in Syria elsewhere as well.
Bill, you have been passionate about al-Shara. How so? What is it that you see there?
Yeah, well, first, I feel like a bobblehead doll. I couldn't shake my head enough in agreement with Hussein. He is spot on. Listen to what that man just said and take that in. That is 100% correct. Shara, I think, is the most dangerous jihadist we've encountered, period. I think he's far more clever, far more dangerous than bin Laden. Let's just look at his resume. He survives a dispute with Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, who's the founder of the Islamic State. Because of a disagreement over who controlled the jihad in Iraq and in Syria. He wanted full control. Shara wanted full control in Syria. Zawahiri agreed with him and gave Shara control. That led to the Al Qaeda Taliban, or I'm sorry, Al Qaeda Islamic State split. He gets designated. He takes by the U.S. both him and his group as a foreign terrorist organization. He succeeds in overthrowing the government with the support of Turkey, the Assad regime. Immediately is defeated by the U.S. and the West. His designation is ultimately removed. The $5 million reward for him is removed. He meets with the president of the United States. Within 8 months of taking control of Syria, he conducts 2 massacres. The U.S. response is there's no plan B. He's our guy. He then overruns a U.S. ally, the Syrian Democratic Forces, which are anything but democratic, but that's a whole separate issue. And what does the U.S. do? Stand by and basically approve it. He has never renounced his oath to Zawahiri, and he's never denounced Al Qaeda. All he said is he was distancing himself. I don't believe that he is truly no longer a member of Al Qaeda. I can't prove it. There's what I know and what I could prove. And he is a clever individual. His military tactics, his communication tactics, as Hussein mentioned, willing to trim the beard, get a haircut, get a nice Italian suit to shake hands with Western leaders. Everyone seems to love Shara, and he has control of the country. Who else can get away with this but Shara? I think we're going to see more like him coming in the future. As Hussein said wisely, the United States is gullible. We think people react to the same inputs, cash and praise and international recognition. All jihadists want are control of countries so they could build their caliphate. Al Qaeda is learning it that if they can't get it by military force, they can get it by coercing, convincing, or schmoozing up to Western leaders.
Mr. Ambassador, you're in Washington. Is the Trump administration focused on the possibility of an attack at any moment?
It is assumed that the Trump administration is prepared and would like to attack Iran if things do not go its way in negotiations with the Iranians. But in the Gulf region, I think most people expect the matter to be resolved in one form or another without a war breaking out.
Without Al Qaeda's presence. They're not. At least they're not talking of Al Qaeda, which dominated our lives for the last decades. I thank Hussein Haqqani, former ambassador from Pakistan to the United States, now a senior fellow at the Hudson Institute, and Bill Roggio, also a senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracy. Importantly, he and his colleagues keep the Long War Journal. I'm John Batchelor. Well, Carrot Soup came out as a 1745. Well done, guys. Well done.
Thank you.
Mr. Ambassador, your measure of the Trump administration right now, do they have the information that you think is necessary to understand the threat of Al Qaeda, of the jihadists, or are they looking elsewhere?
The Trump administration baffles everyone who has lived through the last 100 years. They don't think conventionally. Basically, it's about the whims of one individual. They come up with a charter for the Board of Peace for Gaza, and what does that have? 18 clauses which just mention one man by name. So how the Trump administration looks at threats and deals with them is something that baffles everyone, I'm sure. Trump has a view that America has enormous military power, which we all know is true. But then he thinks he can use that to solve virtually everything, from getting countries to change their tariffs to doing anything else. Yet you can't end up having multi-theater wars, and a war against a terrorist group has to be a smart war. He thinks that if and when they surface, we'll go and crush them, we'll blow their brains out, we'll use massive weapons of mass destruction. Uh, there doesn't seem to be a plan.
Everything's a nail, Bill. Do you agree?
Yeah, look, he thinks that swatting at a fly or two or a bee or two will destroy the hive, and he doesn't have a long-term plan. He likes quick solutions to problems. He doesn't, as Hussein mentioned, I just don't see a long-term planning to deal with these groups. We killed hundreds of maybe thousands of Al-Qaeda leaders and fighters in Afghanistan and Pakistan, as well as Taliban and Haqqani and others. And yet here we are, Afghanistan is under control of terrorists, and we're gone. And I just get the impression he's looking for quick fixes, and they don't exist in these very complex issues that we have to deal with.
Mr. Ambassador, thank you very much for joining us. Bill and I are going to turn to other jihadist threats, and you have your business. But
Pleasure.
I want to
Pleasure.
say, Hussein, I've seen the editorial op-eds that you wrote in the first decade. Everything you said is accurate.
Yeah,
Still,
it's insane.
it's kind of like this wasn't a secret, folks. What was going to happen?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't a secret for those who wanted to think about it and learn about it. It is a secret for those who don't pay attention.
Well,
or don't want to pay attention.
Don't want to. Yep, it's exactly.
If it's understood correctly, I smile when I read your copy, Mr. Ambassador.
Oh, thank you. So many things written 20 years, 25 years ago, and they're panning out today. Anyway, thanks a lot for having me. All the best.
Talk next week. Bill, we're going to turn to
Be well, Hussein.
The Arabian Peninsula. Talk about another quiet group that has not been solved. Bill, you heard of this outfit called the Houthis?
Another one. Hussein. You mentioned Hussein's writings, and my favorite historical character, classic mythology, is Cassandra. Right? Given the prescience to predict the future, but nobody listens. And Hussein's one of those individuals who, we've been warning about the Houthis long before anyone knew who the Houthis were, even before they cemented their significant ties. And to see them come to this level. Now, did I think that they would be able to shut down the Red Sea, basically, and shipping through the Suez Canal, the Red Sea, and the Gulf of Aden? I mean, I didn't see that coming, but I knew they were a growing threat that was being ignored. So, yeah, nothing surprises me. You give these groups, this is the whole thing about safe haven, about the persistence of these groups, John. Give them the time and space. They innovate, they grow, they become more dangerous. That's how we got 9/11. I don't want to give them the time to find out, what is the next, how they're going to attack us here next, or attack us overseas, or plan their next terrorist attack.
It is the easiest thing, Bill, for us to just imagine the day when some version of a crisis requires the Washington establishment to think, well, could it be Al-Qaeda that did that? They didn't say they did it. Yeah. Or could it be ISIS? They didn't say they did it. Yeah. Some anomaly. But we don't need to entertain Cassandra's vision. We know it's coming. We've been through too much of it. Yeah. And in the meantime, we have to deal with the idea that all the horror in the Middle East right now is caused by one Islamic State, just one. That there's nothing to look for in, say, the state security of Ankara, MIT. There's nothing to look for with, say, the state security of Moscow, the KGB. Why would the KGB want to upset America and the Red Sea? Why would they want to do that, Bill? I can't imagine what.
What, get the U.S. to use up its air defense systems and redeploy them so the Ukrainians can't use them? They would never. The Russians would never consider something.
Right. Like that's the kind of thinking that people put into paperback novels. That isn't the real world.
Right. Yeah. It never ever happened, John. Ever.
And the reason we're bringing Bridget on here, and we're going to welcome her now, is that she's our Houthi whisperer. Bridget, a very good morning to you. I introduce Bridget Toomey of the Foundation for the Defense of Democracy, who has the unique pleasure of following the adventures of the Houthis, which is a large group of jihadists who we're told work for Iran. And yet, Bill, they seem to have their own agenda most of the time. And they've been quiet recently. Bridget, a very good day to you. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
I hope you hear both of us well.
Yeah.
Wonderful. We're going to do a report, Bridget Toomey report on the Houthis. And here's why. As Bill has already referenced, the Red Sea remains too dangerous for most insurance that people can afford. Too dangerous. And the Royal Navy, the U.S. Navy, and as far as I know, Israel's defense forces have all tried to solve the Houthis and have failed. And the Houthis remain as toxic in the region and as dangerous in the world as they were when they first evidenced their ability to fire very sophisticated missiles and hit their targets in the Red Sea and Israel. The last time we checked on the Houthis, they were said to be a franchise of Iran. I'll ask you if that's accurate. And given where we are now with what we're told is a huge fleet of U.S. Navy surrounding Iran and a huge air fleet at different bases across the Middle East, where are the Houthis in this? So, Bill, are you all set? We'll do this with Bridget.
Ready to go. And good morning, Bridget. Thanks for joining us.
Isn't this fun, Bridget? We get to talk about what we're going to talk about. Isn't that fun?
Yes.
The pregame show.
Right. I overuse the metaphor of carrot soup. You like carrot soup, don't you, Bridget? I can't find anybody who just...
I don't think I've ever had carrot soup.
Oh, come on, Bill. Have you had
I've
carrot
had tomato
cake?
soup.
Have you had carrot cake? Bill.
I do like carrot cake.
Yeah. Bill, have you had carrot cake? Oh, did I lose you? I'm not hearing you, Bill.
Just momentarily, it cut out for a second.
Do you like carrot cake?
I do like carrot cake. I love it.
Well, that's the same as carrot soup, except for it's got a lot of sugar in it. Okay.
All right.
Here we go to Yemen today. Yemen today. 5. Thank you, Bridget. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm John Batchelor. The Houthis of Yemen. Bill Roggio, Senior Fellow for the Foundation for the Defense of Democracy, my colleague and co-host, and we're very pleased to welcome Bridget Toomey of the Foundation for the Defense of Democracy, who for many months, more than a year now, more than that, has followed the Houthis of Yemen, which remain, to my knowledge, in the field as dangerous as ever and unsolved by the major militaries on the planet. Bridget, I generalize because I've lost track. The Houthis have remained a threat, but quiet these last months. What is your understanding of their capabilities right now? What are they waiting for? What are they listening to? Good evening to you.
Good evening, John. The Houthis maintain many of the capabilities that we've seen them use since
Bridget,
October.
I'm going to stop you. Bill, what's that sound we're hearing?
I don't believe it's me.
Yeah.
Is it
No, Bridget, count to 10 for me.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10?
Sounds good. Bill, you hear it well?
Yeah, just a little echo, but it sounds fine to me.
I heard like a rushing air sound. Did you? Let me hear you. As Bridget talks, Bill, open your mic.
Yeah, my mic's open, so I don't have
All right, fine.
anything going, right? I don't have my headphones or my mic going.
Let's see if it goes away. We'll try again. Here we go from the top. That was a minute rehearsal. Well done. 5, 4, 3, 5, 4, 3, 5, 4, 3. Nope, no echo. 3, 2, 1. I'm John Batchelor. Bill Roggio, my colleague and friend and co-host of the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies, joins me. He and his colleagues keep the Long Word Journal, where you can find Bridget Toomey's reporting on the whole region, but especially she watches the Houthis. You will recall early in the conflict in the Middle East, the Houthis rose up as a threat that needed to be solved. So first it was the IDF, then it was the Royal Navy, then it was the U.S. Navy, and then it was air forces of the Israeli Air Force and the U.S. Air Force. And then, well, here we are. The Houthis remain a threat, unsolved, and they are a major force, not only in the future of Yemen, but the whole Arabian Peninsula. Who are they? What do they want right now? And are they part of the unsolved matter in Tehran, where we have a large fleet, both a naval fleet and an air fleet surrounding Iran? What about Sana'a? Bridget, a very good day to you. Thank you. What is the present understanding of the Houthi threat? What are they listening to? What is their mission right now? Good evening, Bridget.
Good evening, John. The Houthi threat is, as you mentioned, largely unresolved. They maintain the capabilities that they've demonstrated since.
Bridget, I'm going to stop you again. There it is, Bill. You heard it?
I did. I heard a rush. I did mute my mic as soon as Bridget started talking, just to test to see if it was me. So my mic was muted.
Huh.
Okay, so it might be a problem with my computer.
Yeah.
Well, but it's not there when you count to 10 for me. That's what's odd.
Yeah, it really is strange.
It just started up when you started talking to me. Did you
I
do it?
don't hear anything, so I'm not sure
She's
what.
talking now. That's what's strange, right? It just happened when she kicked into the, right after you finished asking her a question.
Right. Count to 10 again. I'll ask you a question. Bridget, will you please count to 10? Go ahead.
1, 2, 3, 4,
It's not
5.
there. It's not
Yeah.
there.
It's not.
Okay.
Listen, if I can ask work for a Mac on these grounds, I'm happy to do it. I don't know.
I will. I'll be behind you on that. I'll let them know that you're doing more. We're doing stuff like this, and you need better. We're having the same problem with Octane too, by the way. So.
Well, let's see if it should not appear when you start to talk. There's nothing different.
I don't know if this is helpful, but I can get to the office quickly and then we could do it from some system there, maybe.
Oh, sure. We can always do. I wanted to show you off to the live audience, Bridget and the Houthis, doing it later on the day. Let's try one more time to see if we can get through this.
Cross our fingers. Good luck, Bridget.
5, 4, 3. We're rehearsed, Bill. We know what we're doing now. so 5, 4, 3, 2. It's the mysteries of the streaming, Bridget. We'll put it down to that. 1. I'm John Batchelor. I'm joined by my good colleague of many years, Bill Roggio of the Foundation for Defense of Democracy. He's a senior fellow, and he and his colleagues keep the Long War Journal, where you can find routinely reporting by Bridget Toomey, a research fellow at the Long War Journal and at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracy, with a specialty. For some time now, we've known to go to Bridget to watch the Houthis of Yemen. They have control of the capital, and yet, despite their lethality, they've closed down important shipping in the Red Sea, for heaven's sakes. Insurance companies cannot offer a benefit that anybody's attracted to risk going through the Red Sea. They've done all of that with an organization that is hard to picture, can defy the U.S. Navy, the Royal Navy, the IDF, and the Air Forces of same. So, Bridget, a very good day to you. Where are the Houthis now? What is their mission? What is their threat? Or let me put it this way. They're watching what's going on in Tehran. What does it mean to them? Good day to you, Bridget.
Good evening, John. The Houthis are absolutely paying close attention to.
There it is, Bridget. I'm sorry. Bill, this is the biggest mystery.
It's amazing. As soon as she cuts after your question.
So it knows when it's important. And that's
Actually, it's doing. I could hear it a little bit coming when you started speaking.
So, Bridget, going to the office, what time would you be comfortable about it? When would you guess? I have an open, let me see. I have an open 11:30. How's that for you?
I think that'd be good. That will give me time to ask somebody for a different setup or some
Right.
help.
So will Bill, is that okay? That'd be
Absolutely, yeah. My morning is aside for you as always, John.
that's between David and Hardy.
Yeah.
That's between the killing in Lebanon and the killing in Ukraine. We'll fit you right in. The Houthis belong.
It's a little south of there, but it's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of killing.
So Bridget, we'll look for you at 11. I'll send you a link.
11 or
And-
11:30.
11:30, and it'll be a Zoom link this time. It won't be the StreamYard. Okay.
Okay.
Thank
Sounds
you.
good.
Thank you very much.
Sorry about this.
Yeah. Bridget,
Part of the process. Good
we
luck,
have,
Bridget. See you soon.
we have no idea what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
me neither.
It's a total mystery.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bill.
So John, everyone gets to see that though. That's part of the making of the show. Is that right? Because we're live.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, well, hey,
Everybody's got the same online mysteries all the time.
it's quite a shame because Bridget has such good knowledge, but yeah.
Well, we'll get it at 11:30 on Zoom.
Yeah.
It was hard to say why it wasn't there when she counted to 10.
And then you know what I noticed? After the third test, I heard it kick on a couple of times when she started speaking.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with her mic in her computer, if that's what she's using.
Yeah, it was hearing the room.
Yeah. It was like it went wide open as soon as she started speaking.
She was on the mic on her computer, I guess. She doesn't have a separate mic.
I don't know what her setup is.
Okay.
Yeah, I got to talk to FDD because I know we have that problem with a couple of times with the podcast when we do Generation Jihad, right? We usually spend 5-10 minutes. Yeah, this is the fun part that everyone gets to see. That all the
it happens to everybody.
Yeah,
there are, as long as John doesn't push the wrong button, I remain on air. But I'm capable of destroying myself, Bill.
I hear that.
And sometimes I get a clicking sound that I don't know where it comes from. The other day, I had a perfectly clean recording with an author, perfectly clean. But when it went through the processing to go to radio, you go from the Adobe MP3 to the radio up to the satellite. It picked up a background noise that you couldn't hear on off Adobe. It was there, so they cleaned it. But it's total mystery where it came from. Total. Any sound engineers out there want to suggest that you've got a catch-all? They just talk about gremlins, Bill. Gremlins will turn up.
I think we just have to record in an isolation chamber or something like that, right?
Yeah, something fair enough. Bill will rejoin. I'm going to go do the Russian story. And you're welcome to stay, Bill. I just didn't want you plunging into something you haven't had background on.
Yeah, I will. No, I think I'll jump because we're going to have 9:30, right?
Yeah, 9:30 with Janitin, and he's got
11 on. So yeah, let me do some show prep just because I might have imbibed a little bit last night.
Janitin's got the story of they're arresting reformists now in Iran.
Yeah.
So he'll update us on the situation on the ground in Iran. And then 10:30 is David's 11.
Oh, David's 11? We have a 10:30 then.
No, we don't. I don't think we have a 10:30.
I just think we have John, David at 11, Bridget 11:30, Edmund 12, and Ahmed at 12:30, right?
No, Hardy at 12.
Oh, Hardy at 12.
Edmund at 12:30, and I'll spin your head, Bill. Okay, see you at 9:30. Thank you.
Good luck, John. I'll see you soon.
Bye. This is the making of the John Batchelor Show, and I bid farewell to Bill Roggio, since we enjoyed updating everyone on what is not happening in Washington now with Al-Qaeda and the jihadists that were the great threat of the early part of the 21st century. Now we move to the great threat, to my knowledge, of the whole of the 20th century. That would have been Russia, sometimes called the Soviet Union, now called the Russian Federation. And helping me understand this story and the threat ongoing is my longtime colleague and friend, the author and journalist, Craig Unger. Craig, a very good day to you.
Great to see you, John.
Here we are live, Craig, and what we're here, we gather here together to preview a presentation that is going to air on Wednesday night in 48 hours of your work so far on the Soviet Union and then the Russian Federation, and one program run out of the Russian embassy and other legations, which was to find, locate, and develop American assets. Do I say all that correctly, Craig?
Yes, you do. And the Russians, actually, it started with the Soviets, but they hit the jackpot. And they initially started out wide, looking for assets everywhere. And one of them became president of the United States.
Indeed. So we're going to let me get the recording. Craig, you're familiar with carrot soup. I tell everybody, this is the making of carrot soup. Okay. So yeah, I think it's pretty good. I mean, I want to concentrate. There's American compromat up on the wall behind Craig, and on the other side is House of Trump, House of Putin, which is a clue as to where we're going. But this is a preview of a much longer conversation that Craig and I have been having for more than a year now, and will continue to develop because the new player on the scene, for reasons to do with state politics, the man's Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein, is accused by the premier of Poland as a Russian agent. The premier of Poland, Tusk, he's done that in the last 72 hours. We take it very seriously, especially because the Kremlin demonstrates that it wants to play game. They could have said nothing. Instead, they sent out Peskov, their spokesman, to say they won't waste time commenting on the remarks by the premier of Poland, which, of course, is what they did by saying we won't waste time. They wasted time. Why? We don't know, but we'll begin it right now, Craig. Here we go. 5, 4. This is 8 to 9 minutes for tonight, Craig. 5, 4, 3, 2. Get this right. Stop. There we go. I'm John Batchelor. I welcome my good colleague of many years, decades now, Craig Unger, the journalist and author of important books that tell the story of politics in the late 20th century. That would be the most recent Den of Spies, about the October surprise of the campaign of 1980. But before that, Craig has published 2 books I heartily recommend as mysteries. This is not solved. This is not the fixed record such as we could speak of if we were debating what happened at Yalta in February of 1945. This is nothing but espionage, which means it remains shadows. American Compromat is one book above Craig's left shoulder, and House of Trump, House of Putin is above his right shoulder. Craig has a Substack page where you can find details about what we're about to present. Craig, my learning from you is that it begins with the Commodore Hotel in 1980. How so? Good day to you.
That's exactly right. And this is Donald Trump in his very early years. And this is his one great success, or one of his very, very few great successes in real estate. This is back when New York City's finances were in the toilet. He buys the Commodore Hotel for $1. And it becomes a massive success for him, extraordinary. But like every hotel, it needs television sets. And in getting those, Trump reaches out to an electronics firm that turns out to be a KGB front. And that's how it all starts 46 years ago.
He got the television sets for the Commodore Hotel and was now identified, if I follow your chronology, identified as a possible subject to be acquired by the Russian agents, both illegal and illegal, in New York. And that's a big program. What does it look like? How big is their program?
Well, in the mid-'80s, there were said to be 300 spies in New York City alone. And the KGB was reaching out everywhere. They especially wanted people who were highly placed in financial circles, business circles. They had a very important asset, a man named Armand Hammer, who was CEO of Occidental Petroleum. And he had been very close to he had really been a Soviet asset and won very lucrative franchises for Occidental Petroleum. He became essentially a billionaire in today's terms. But he was aging out, and the Soviets wanted replacement, and they looked to many, many people, Donald J. Trump among them.
Yes, now important to mention, state security is the driving force. The state within a state in Russia was state security then, the Soviet Union is state security today. Important to make a distinction that I've learned from Craig. There is no difference in Russia between state security and the Russian mob. They're the same people. Do I say that correctly, Craig?
Well, absolutely. I mean, in the United States, of course, we know the old Italian-American mafia used to be at war with the FBI. In Russia and the Soviet Union, it's exactly the opposite. Organized crime is essentially an adjunct of the Russian security forces. They're allowed to operate freely so long as they serve the interests of the state.
This isn't George Smiley doing the right thing. This isn't Carla romantically fencing with George Smiley. This is the mob tactics that we're familiar with from American television, but they concentrate on making money. They want to be rich. Even during the Soviet days, they wanted to be rich, and the transfer of their ambitions to the Russian Federation was easy. However, Mr. Trump then becomes someone who builds the Trump Tower. Enter the Russian mob / state security. How so, Craig?
Well, there were essentially two operations going on. One is in 1984, the Russian mafia actually reached out to Donald Trump. A man named David Bogadin, who worked with the Russian mob family run by Semyon Mogilevich, walked into Trump Tower. He put down $6 million in cash on the table and said he'll take 5 condos. And in doing so, he essentially was laundering money. Real estate is a terrific way to launder money. If you have a few $1 billion you want to launder, just buy a whole bunch of condos in New York City through limited liability corporations, which can be anonymous, and bam, you've laundered your money.
Now, there is no reason to jump to the conclusion that Trump or his associates knew they were being identified by the KGB, by state security, nor do we necessarily follow all of this because there's a major source that Craig is still dealing with. Craig, introduce us to Major Shvets.
Yuri Shvets was a major in the KGB in the 1980s, and he was stationed in Washington, D.C. His cover was that he was a journalist for TASS, covering Washington for Russia. But in fact, he was recruiting American spies, and his colleagues in New York Station were cultivating a man named Donald Trump. So Yuri had enormous familiarity with all the protocols. And as Trump was sent by the KGB to Moscow in 1987, Yuri went back to Moscow with his own asset that he was cultivating, but he was very familiar with what was happening to Donald Trump, and he was there in KGB headquarters when the KGB celebrated a very successful active measure in which one of their assets had published a full-page ad in the New York Times putting out KGB talking points, and it was signed by Donald J. Trump.
Yes, that was after the return from Moscow. We're going very fast here. This is all laid out in detail in a conversation on Wednesday night, the 11th. I recommend it for those of you who have doubts, and you should, because a major source here is state security, and this is a world of shadows. There's never going to be a final, you don't get a document saying, I did it. That's not the way it works. Hence, George Smiley and Carla are still fencing with each other in heaven, wherever they are. Craig, your measure right now, we just have a couple of minutes, your measure right now, the story you tell in American Compromat and House of Trump, House of Putin, that now suits some in the Democratic Party. Is it material that's coming to the attention of the Republican Party? Are more people understanding what must be solved, which is Trump's relationship with state security?
Well, it possibly seems to be finally leashing into the Republican Party in some regard, and that's largely through Jeffrey Epstein, who seems to have many parallels to Donald Trump in terms of his relationship to Russian state security. And I write about that first in American Compromise, but I've been writing about it on my Substack as well. I mean, obviously, we've seen people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and a large segment of the Republican Party demand the full release of the Epstein files. And in that, you start to see all these ties to Russia. And Donald Trump has mentioned it an awful lot. So maybe it's finally beginning to penetrate. At the same time, I believe we're really at war with Russia. It's a hybrid warfare without bombs, bullets, or boots on the ground, but it's through these organisms of state security.
Craig Unger, American Compromat and House of Trump, House of Putin, Wednesday night, the 11th on the John Batchelor Show. I'm John Batchelor. You enjoy that?
Yes, it was fun.
Yeah, we went really fast. Whoa.
Yeah.
Craig, every time I hear the story, why do I smile? Why?
Because it is hard to believe, isn't it? I mean, it really is.
Yes. Chapter 1, it's a great book, but it's not, you didn't write it.
It's staggering because I remember, I don't know if you ever look back at something you wrote many years ago. I don't make a habit of it, but I think, wow, I really got it right. And I remember thinking I was so far over my skis, 10 years ago.
Well, the Epstein matter, do you believe that is the leverage that was necessary to open it up?
No, I didn't know. I've been wrong so many times and thinking of what's going to bring down.
Not you. I'm talking about the larger story that's being told now about Epstein in all of the publications. Will they connect this to Trump? They seem to be looking in the documents for it, but I don't think they're going to find it there. They're going to find it in Moscow.
They rarely they don't connect all the dots. They rarely do. You rarely see that in mainstream media. And instead they tend to, disregard you as a sort of connect the dots conspiracy nut. When in fact, I mean, in terms of methodology, what I really do is I make chronologies. Right. This happened. And then you start looking at it and you start to figure out causality when you see that event B happened after event A. Why?
There was we stopped our storytelling with 1987, and we need to, part 2 would pick it up and go all the way to the beauty contest. And when was that, 11? 09? Oh, what was it?
The Miss Universe, I think it was I'll have to check, 13, I think. Maybe.
13 or 14.
Yeah.
So we need to get from 87 to 13 for the next episode. And that'll allow me to go back and read the book. I enjoy reading it again because that means I've read it more recently than you. So Craig and I both struggle with dates, don't we, Craig?
Oh, we do. And I did 5 books in 3 years. And for me, that's just too much,
Greg, I welcome you on the show, on the live streaming show. I'm going to put this up tonight as an advertisement for the show on Wednesday night, and we will continue next weekend.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay.
Here goes the music. You want to hear it? The exit.
Yeah.
This is live stream, so it's already gone, Craig. There's no correcting this. Here we go.